Greetings and salutations. My name is Jake Query. That is
Derek Schultz. Hi.
Derek Schultz. And this is Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network. And Derek, brought to you by Bailey and Wood, by the way. Thank you, as always, for their sponsorship. Derek, we are taping this on a Tuesday. It's been a long time since I've said this. Long time.
Okay.
I enjoy going to Pacer games. I go to a lot of Pacer games. It's been a long time, admittedly, since I've gone to a Pacer game, and it has felt like in any sports thing, I always say you're chasing nostalgia, right? Mm-hmm. It's been a long time since I have gone to a Pacer game, and it felt like the Reggie Knicks, Pacers, LeBron, Heat era rivalries. Pacers beating the Boston Celtics in the semifinals, or I guess the final round. Yeah, the quarterfinal before the actual semifinals of the in-season tournament. That was an electric atmosphere. It was awesome. It was captivating, and it felt like a playoff game. At least 10 different times last night, I turned around and said, this feels like a playoff game.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's just a regular season game in December, right?
This is what the NBA wants, though. We're leading Pacers, right? Would we lead Pacers on this show if it was a regular December 5th, even a win over the Celtics, probably the best team in the NBA? Would we have led Pacers? Right. The answer is no, right? And so all the shows, all the radio shows, your show, I'm sure, Query & Company, you'll lead Pacers today, right?
Right.
Kevin and Andy and John and everybody will be leading it. And that's what the Pacers and the NBA and everybody else, that's what they want. It's meaningful basketball for a franchise that doesn't usually play meaningful basketball. And people can say whatever they want. They can say, oh, it's manufactured and, whatever. Look, is it manufactured? Of course it is.
Right.
Of course it's completely made up and all of that. But lean into it. The players are into it. And that's the buy-in that you really needed, Jake. I think I was really skeptical of the in-season tournament because I didn't really understand what $50,000 does for Tyrese Halliburton. And I didn't understand what the incentive was for the fans. But the domino effect here is...
the players have bought into it. And
yes, exactly. That's the domino effect. So players have bought into it. Fans get it. And here we are. It's really only a two-domino thing.
And I'm curious, Derek, I don't know if this is the case. I have no idea. But is this the same level of... the Pacers are one of, 3 teams, I think, that had gone undefeated to this point in the in-season games. Mm-hmm. And clearly those guys, Tyrese Halliburton clearly is into it, right? Like he wants to win these games. And I have no idea if that's the same level, at least in the early games. I think once you get to this point, you could tell Boston wanted to win, right? But in the early games, when the first couple of them, when there's just this weird floor and you're wearing a different jersey, was Milwaukee totally invested?
Good question.
If you would have
lost
the Nuggets
first one,
totally invested, I don't know.
If you would have lost the first one, I'm trying to remember, was it the Cavs?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember even what their first one was. If you would have lost that one, where you're like, would you kind of be like, okay, whatever,
right?
Not gonna go anywhere. Who cares?
So they go Thursday. For those that are unfamiliar with it, Thursday now the Pacers go for the semifinals of the in-season tournament.
The East Final.
They will await the winner of Milwaukee and New York, which will be taking place, tipping off right about the time you're watching this. And then if they were to, and that's in Vegas, if they were to win that, then they play in the final.
Imagine if it's Pacers-Knicks. You talk about nostalgia.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of fun to see something like that. But I know I didn't see the result
Knicks
last night.
Milwaukee, right?
The Pelicans, right, were also involved, and I think the Kings were on the west side. So this is, again, we're talking about meaningful basketball.
Allow me to look.
For teams that don't normally play meaningful basketball. That was a TNT game last night, national TV, right? You had national NBA reporters tweeting about Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers. It's a big opportunity for the franchise to get that exposure. That's what everybody wants here, right? We hear fans complain about all the time. Oh, nobody pays attention to us. Okay, here it is. This manufactured tournament that people seem to hate, or that I was and others were skeptical of, it's working. It's kudos to Adam Silver. I don't know what the staying power is here. I don't know what the in-season tournament is in 2028, or if it even exists then. But in the scope of 23-24, it's a win, right? I think clearly it's not only a win. I'm blown away by how much of a success it's been.
A couple of things here if we're really breaking down the Pacers, Derek. Number one, Paul George was a great player. Paul George might be the best, most versatile, skilled player in the Pacers NBA franchise system.
I agree.
But he didn't have a certain it factor. And Indiana has been chasing that it factor since Reggie Miller captivated the market here. And that it factor is the ability to catch lightning in a bottle and ride this wave in a late game situation where everybody in the arena knows if that guy's on the floor and he's feeling it right now, this thing's never over. Mm-hmm. And Tyrese Halliburton is the first player I've seen that has that. He had it last night where all of a sudden when he starts getting hot and hitting three-point shots that look ridiculous and they go in and you're like, oh my gosh, like there is some sort of a Midas touch going on here, right? The other side of that would be at times he doesn't guard anybody. And that is an issue. Mm-hmm. Their wing defense last night, now when they needed to, they made big plays down the stretch, don't get me wrong, and it was fabulous. But they got guys like Peyton Pritchard out there breaking people down on the dribble. And come on, what are we doing here, right? I mean, their inability to stop. There were times where Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who are fabulous talents, and there are a lot of teams in the NBA that are going to struggle guarding those guys, but they just it looked like Stifler when Finch was looking for the men's bathroom. Right this way, sir.
And sadly, that was probably their best defensive effort of the season.
Right.
Honestly.
No, you're right.
Given the stakes and given the opponent, that was probably their best defensive effort.
The other thing that I noticed last night, it is now becoming very apparent that while the Pacers, and I think going into the season we had this assumption that there was a passing of the torch of who was going to be Robin. Batman clearly is Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, no question.
But there was this seemed inevitable passing of the torch that was going to take place where Buddy Hield was going to kind of step back a little bit and Benedict Mathurin was going to have his opportunity at the mantle to become the running mate. And I think the Pacers have resigned themselves. You know what? We're not ready to put Buddy out to pasture just yet.
Yeah.
And I think now they've got to reevaluate and reassess what they do in terms of his contractual situation. And he's probably smart to have turned down the initial offer they made because he is playing at a level and playing at an intensity where he is a really valuable piece of what they're doing.
And he's a great teammate. That's
correct.
It's also the off-the-court stuff. I think how I would answer that is that the Pacers' Robin right now is still TBD. The Pacers have the green tights and black blindfold and yellow cape still sitting on the bed at the complex right now. They're waiting for somebody to come in the room and put that on before they go to school. Sometimes their second best player is Turner. Sometimes their second best player is Nesmith. On any given night.
I thought last night Nesmith was huge for
them.
them.
I mean, Hield was fantastic last night.
But Nesmith made little plays, Derek, that Aaron Nesmith had some great defensive plays. With about 7 minutes to go in the game, it was 6:53 actually. 6 minutes and 53 seconds left in the game. Boston had cut the lead to 3, I think it was, and there was a timeout, and Indiana looked kind of gassed.
Yeah.
And I thought
they were going to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, once Boston came all the way
back.
And
then Nesmith had, at one point he had a breakaway score. He had a defensive stop. He took a charge, and that kind of rejuvenated or re-energized Indiana down the stretch.
No, he's a hugely important player. But if the Pacers are actually going to go somewhere this year and not just, make the playoff field, they need somebody to emerge as that number 2 on a consistent basis.
You don't think it's Hield?
No, not on a consistent basis. Not this year. Hield's had some good moments. He's also had some games where he's completely disappeared.
Right.
Overall, I think Buddy Hield has had a CC plus start to the season so far. But they need that second person to kind of emerge and be that Robin to go with Halliburton. But Halliburton, the secret's out. He raises everybody else. I think we had mentioned this on the show, but the reason why the win was more the trade was such a win for the Pacers is because I think you knew, as good as he is, and he's very good. Domas Sabonis is one of the 15 to 20 best players in the league. That's all he is, though. We don't know yet. I'm not saying that Halliburton is going to ever be the best player in the league or a top 5 player. I don't know that. But that question still remains unanswered. You know what I mean? Like, there is the potential that he gets there.
But Derek, here's one thing that I saw on social media you were talking about, and I think people misunderstood maybe what I was trying to say. Very seldomly do we see NBA trades that are win-win.
Yeah, I agree.
That trade was a win-win for Sacramento and Indiana for the following reasons. Clearly, Indiana saw in Tyrese Halliburton what maybe they didn't see it to this level, but they saw that he had this kind of a potential in him, right? But for Sacramento, Sabonis is a great player. But the other thing that allowed in this trade for Sacramento was it freed up De'Aaron Fox, who is a Halliburton-level player for Sacramento.
Yeah.
And
uncluttered their backcourt, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And it allowed De'Aaron Fox, one of those two guys probably was going to blossom, but maybe they weren't totally going to blossom with the other one there.
Yeah.
So by Halliburton moving on, and it could maybe it was the other way around. If they'd sent De'Aaron Fox here, Halliburton's doing the same thing. But the point being, they got a win-win because they got Sabonis, and then it also allowed all of a sudden De'Aaron Fox to come out from under the shadows, and he's a great player.
It's absolutely a win for Sacramento, and he's a fantastic player, Sabonis. I'm looking at this selfishly in a vacuum with the Pacers, and there is no doubt in my mind, as good as Sabonis is, Indiana couldn't reach the level that they could potentially reach with Halliburton that they could with Sabonis. Like, let's say that trade never happens.
No, I agree with that.
Let's say that trade never happens. Sabonis doesn't suddenly, rise up the rest of the franchise.
And what I'm saying is, likewise, as good as Sabonis is in Sacramento, he's not as good a player without De'Aaron Fox there.
Yeah.
Or without it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I mean, this isn't – I feel like every time that we analyze this trade – what I'm saying is somehow knocking Sabonis. That's not what I'm doing. It's more of a praise of Halliburton and his fit with the Pacers. We talked for so long that the Pacers were going to have to draft, remember, or get lucky in the draft with their franchise player. Well, they got him in a trade.
Right.
They got him in a trade, period. They didn't back into this. They traded a star player for a superstar player.
The most important part, unlike Paul George, unlike Victor Oladipo, okay, the most important part in all of this is that Halliburton is now locked in.
Yeah, agree.
Because
and he's happy, right?
Most of the time.
We never really knew with Paul George, are you happy here? With Oladipo, I guess he was happy until he wasn't happy.
For now.
Yeah.
Halliburton. He's happy for now, but he's not going to have a choice now.
True. These things can be short-lived. They can. Let's get to our Love That Play. Brought to you by our friends at Love Heating and Cooling.
If you don't go with this, then I'm walking out.
353-2141 love-hvac.com. I think clearly the Love That Play was in the MAC championship football game when Miami. No, I'm kidding. Tyrese Halliburton, the 4-point play,
unbelievable.
That really kind of put. It was the knockout blow, right? Like you can tell, you can see the air go out. It
was a 90-second
Boston.
stretch. Halliburton, the 4-point play, right?
Yeah.
Then they come down, they get a stop, and
they took over the game after that.
They come down, Hield hits a 3, and then they got. I think it was Neesmith.
Neesmith dunk, exclamation point.
Yeah.
And then another Hield 3 as the buzzer sounded. He's just done it time and time again. He has 2 seasons worth of those shots and moments in a month, 6 weeks.
Yeah, you're right.
Lightning in a bottle. It's been an incredible start for him. And were you surprised that was his first career triple-double? The fact that he goes double-double seemingly every night, points and assists, I just assumed that at some point he would have
had the game
10 rebounds.
After the game, Shannon's friend, Susie, who sits with us, said she looked at her phone and said, that's his first career triple-double. And I literally thought, that's got to be a misprint.
Yeah. I was surprised.
Yeah.
Because like Steve Nash or guys like that, they get
Russell
got
Westbrook
a lot,
had like,
I feel like. Yeah,
60
Russell Westbrook.
in a year one time.
Yeah. I don't know. That was a little surprising to me. But maybe the best play, again, given the stakes and given the opponent, maybe the best play of the season for Halliburton, which is really saying something because he's a walking highlight reel seemingly every single month.
By the way, Love That Play brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air. Love-hvac.com is their website, 317-353-2141. Listen, you people have heard me on this show. Which of my buddies would you say gets referenced more than any other on this show?
Chris Love is way up there. Byron probably is number 1, though.
So Byron, who obviously is the guy that I do my road trip with every year, I just talked to him on the way up here today, as a matter of fact, and he goes, I've got Love Heating and Air coming out to my house, taking care of my furnace. So, the people that I know the best, I obviously trust them with Love Heating and Air, partially because Chris and John Love are 2 of the guys that I know the best. I've known them my whole life. They'll treat you like family as well. Love-HVAC, family-owned business, over 100 years in central Indiana, whether it be your heating needs or your cooling needs, 24-hour on-call maintenance for Love Heating and Air. 317-353-2141.
Talking Colts, eating some Sandos when we get back, and also the Monday Night Football game. Good results or bad results?
I think we're going to disagree on this.
We'll debate that when we return. It's Corey and Schultz just getting started here on episode 164, ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey and Wood presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network, 353-2141 for our friends at Bailey and Wood Financial Group, also online, bawfg.com.
I was slower, Derek, for people.
bawfg.com.
And the phone number?
855-350-HOME. I was
855.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was going to
home.
Are there any areas of Indianapolis that you would say are kind of like Bermuda Triangle-y for you, where you're like, how do people live all the way up? Is this still central Indiana, or am I in Cincinnati, Chicago?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Geist is like that for me. Like when you get way up into Geist, or
first off, what? And it's probably, and I get it. I'm sure it has something to do with like the natural aesthetics and beauty of it. But can we put like one street light? Or a street sign.
I hear you.
I can't tell you the number of times in Geist that I think I'm like, oh, yeah, I just got to get up here to 75th and take a left. And then the next thing I know, I'm in Saginaw.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, what happened?
It's very weird. Our buddy Jordan on the IC crew also lives in Lawrence, but like way out in Lawrence, like past Pendleton Pike and all that. And I'm just like, where is this Indianapolis? Like, I'm pretty sure it is because we love Lawrence. But I was dropping something off there the other day, and I saw their Bailey and Wood Financial Group branch up there, Fall Creek Road. So Geist, whatever else. But I believe 19 Indiana branch locations. They've got one in Florida. I think Mike was mentioning that they're opening one somewhere out like Alabama or something like that too.
That's cool.
So if you have any Alabamians that are
even with all those branches, they are still committed towards helping and giving back to Central and in particular like the south side of Indianapolis.
Absolutely.
Indiana.
Firmly rooted here in Central Indiana, and the roots started and the growth started in Little Whiteland, and that community has exploded in the years since, as has Bailey and Wood Financial Group. So BAWFG.com for 5-star customer service. Let's get to the Colts. Took care of business. A wild game against the Titans. Kind of a weird game, Jake. It was a game where I felt like at times they should be blowing them out, and then at times I felt like, oh, they're going to lose. And then they ended up winning. Gardner Minshew wasn't great, but was great when it mattered.
Yeah.
In the overtime on that drive, 3 of 3, 68 yards. The 55-yarder to Pierce really was what set it all up. Colts have gone from, hey, it would be kind of nice and cute for them to make the playoffs, to I would be legitimately disappointed if the Colts did not make the playoffs.
Derek, here's the thing. Right now, the division, Trevor Lawrence against the Bengals on Monday Night Football suffered an injury. And initially the reports were, or not the reports, but reports is the wrong word, sorry.
Taping this Tuesday, by the way, I know we have to clarify that a bunch.
The initial reaction from people was he suffered a leg or knee injury. He was, everybody saw it by now. His knee was contorted in a very uncomfortable looking position.
Didn't look good.
And there was a lot of criticism for them. I can't believe they didn't bring out the cart. Well, I think now, and again, we are taping this on Tuesday morning, so by the time this is airing, we probably will have more concrete answers. But it appears as though the ankle is injury-related, and if it's dislocated, that's one thing, but by all account, it looks like perhaps it's going to be an ankle sprain that would keep him out maybe multiple weeks, but perhaps not the remainder of the season. Quite frankly, the reality is this. That Lawrence injury probably is a major factor within the AFC South. And the team that you might have to contend with in general within the division that might be playing the best is Houston. Mm-hmm. So it's a real interesting three-horse race here down the stretch. And the Colts are absolutely, based partially on schedule, in really good position to make some noise within the division. They're only a game back of Jacksonville right now, but keep in mind Jacksonville swept them.
Yeah.
So tiebreaker right there. So you're 2 games back. But they've got their schedule is favorable. Indianapolis' schedule.
No question. What I worry about with the division is that at worst you would probably have to finish 4-1 at worst to have a chance for the Colts. And that's doable with this schedule. It is. But as you saw, Jake, against Tennessee, the Colts could lose to the Falcons. Colts could lose to the Raiders. Colts could lose to the Texans. Colts could lose to that Cincinnati team if the same one shows up from last night.
The thing about the Colts that's weird, Derek,
you can't take any game and be like, oh, they're going to win that game.
They could lose any of those games. They also could go beat San Francisco.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they could beat Baltimore.
Okay.
AFC-wise, yeah. I think what's
San Francisco's
interesting
really good.
What's interesting about the NFL this year is that I think you clearly have.
Don't send me a bunch of things from people in San Francisco like guy says they're going to beat that. No,
yeah.
I'm just saying.
You do have a crust of teams like San Francisco, and I think Dallas is there too. Philly, I don't think is as good as they are last year, but they find a way a lot. The AFC is the most unremarkable AFC I can ever remember.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, Baltimore's good. Baltimore's really good.
You get into the vat of mediocrity pretty quick.
Baltimore doesn't scare me at all. Jacksonville doesn't. I know they beat the Colts twice. They don't scare me at all.
Kansas City scare you?
No, they're scoring 20 points every week.
Yeah.
They look like Kansas City looks like a sports car that's 12 years old. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's still a Porsche, I guess, but you get on the road with it and you're like, where's the engine at? Like,
right.
are you going to gun it or not? Are you going to shift it into that next gear? So I don't want to make this into something it's not, Jake. I don't want to start turning this into, hey, can the Colts contend for the Super Bowl? They can't. I think they have tragic flaws that are not going to allow them to do that. But this has been a great season. And for the folks, like somebody on Twitter was like, oh, this team's taking advantage of their schedule. They actually suck. They're really mediocre. So what?
Right.
Great.
Win the games you're supposed to win, right? Yeah.
Wonderful. I think another conversation that is going to be maybe a long-term conversation here, and for so long we kind of disregarded backup quarterbacks because of the rash of key injuries to quarterbacks. Do we now see a run in the draft or in free agency on guys like Minshew and people like that where people are paying major money because they know that one of these guys maybe can keep their season afloat?
Like a 17-game quarterback is rare.
In 2009, a backup quarterback is not going to keep you afloat against Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger. They're not. In 2025, maybe they are. You know? In 2023, they are.
Between Cincinnati and Jacksonville, Cincinnati going with a backup quarterback, Jacksonville ultimately having to finish with a backup quarterback, Cincinnati wins. The result that the Colts most needed in the Cincinnati-Jacksonville game was what?
You can certainly argue either way, which was what makes it a fun sports debate.
I don't think you can. I think there's a definitive answer.
If Cincinnati loses that game last night and the Colts beat them next week, they are off the table. They are out of the wild card conversation. You would be 3 up with the tiebreaker. They're done. They are gone. Yes, Jacksonville losing still gives you hope for the division. But again, Jake, you need Jacksonville to lose twice, and that's if you win out. So you would have to go 4-1 and have Jacksonville lose 3 times out of 5 games, even with the Lawrence injury. 3 times in 5 games. And they've got Carolina on their schedule. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they've got Cleveland here. They've got Baltimore. But the Jags don't have a murderer's row to end the season. Nobody in the AFC does.
The answer is this.
I'd rather wipe Cincinnati off the table.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. If you've got the hammer, and you got two walls you got to knock down, right? You might as well let somebody else take a knock at. The easiest way to say it is they still have themselves a hammer to swing at Cincinnati, right?
Yeah, because they're head-to-head.
Right.
Yeah.
So you go ahead and let Cincinnati take a whack at Jacksonville for you because you have no more control over Jacksonville. So you have Cincinnati do that favor, then you counter back by hitting Cincinnati. It was the best case for the Colts because the team that the Colts still control their destiny against, Cincinnati, they still have the chance to take care of that.
Yeah, but the problem with the hammer whack situation is that if Cincinnati now comes back and takes a whack at you, you would have the chance to whack them off the table. Whereas, hold on, let's get that in post. Hold on.
I don't think that's
Wait, hold on.
I don't think that's the right terminology here. The editing there can be dangerous, right? I mean, what are we doing here?
That was one of those things where it took a second, but then, okay. 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
So I can't use
what
the
I'm
term,
saying is this.
I can't use the term off anymore because we're using the term whack. Why did you bring up whack? You made it difficult now.
Because I'm not 12.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right.
I mean, it's not difficult.
Let's center. 3, 2, 1. So, if you,
I'm a professional sports broadcaster, right?
okay. So if you take Cincinnati beats you.
Okay.
I'm not going to use the term off for that one. Cincinnati defeats you, and then suddenly they're ahead of you.
Okay.
That's the problem, Jake. I'm a worst case scenario sometimes thinker, and that's the problem with that. You take them completely away from the playoff
I get it,
conversation.
but do you really think that Cincinnati is? To me, Cincinnati is circling the drain. Cincinnati is literally one away from gone.
Their
right?
skill position guys are so good, though.
I get it. Jamar Chase is a great.
Yeah,
player. But Cincinnati is again. I would rather have the Colts can't do anything with Jacksonville now because Jacksonville's beaten them twice. So they need other teams to beat Jacksonville for them.
Okay.
And you might as well have that done by a team that you still have the ability to personally impact what happens.
Sure. Here's my point of this whole, and we'll bring it kind of full circle here. The Colts could conceivably finish 2-3. They could finish 1-4.
You're right.
Like we can't.
Wouldn't it be the most Colts thing ever?
We can't present this as the Colts are so much better than all these teams. Is this finishing schedule easy? Yes. Are the quarterbacks that they're facing mostly bad? Yes. But the Colts can't take anything for granted. They're almost coming off a loss to the Titans. They're almost 6-6 right now, and then we're having a very different conversation about what that Cincinnati game means from last night, right? That's how thin the margins are for them. I mean, every single week, they're life and death. I don't care who they're playing. And that's what I guess has made the season really exciting. Time to get to our Hoagie and Hero of the Week.
I have a nominee.
Look at this bad boy. This is the Zerns. This is the most unique Sando on
Zerns?
Christina's menu. You want me to tell you what's all in here?
Sure.
Slice ring bologna, smoky, really good. Don't think like the Oscar Mayer crap that you get at the grocery store. Like, this is legit bologna. I'm not usually a bologna guy. House red beet pickled egg. Again, unique, right? You're not going to find a lot of red beet pickled egg sandwiches in Indianapolis.
I can't eat egg.
Or in the Midwest.
You didn't put egg on here, did you?
I didn't put egg on yours because I know what your dietary limitations are. Munster cheese, a delicious Munster cheese. I also didn't put mayo on yours, but you have mayo with the whole grain beer mustard, which I love. Love the whole grain beer mustard. And then L on the sandwich, on the South Jersey. Yeah, lettuce. On the South Jersey, delicious bread. Oh, yeah. Here you go.
Derek, if you need to do it before swallowing, you just push the food on either side and then
I was
talk.
trying to swallow it too quick. Santa is coming to Hoagies and Hops a week from Sunday.
Really?
2:30 to 5 p.m. 10% off your order, your entire food order at Hoagies and Hops, if you bring in a canned food item, which will be donated across the street. St. Vincent de Paul Food Pantry right across the street there at 42nd and Boulevard. They need soups, beans. They need ramen noodles. They need mac and cheese. They need veggies, fruit, Jiffy cornbread mix. Don't get the off-brand stuff. Get the Jiffy. That's good stuff. All those donations, 10% off your total order. Santa from 2:30 to 5 coming up here next Sunday.
By the way,
I'm taking James over there. Why go to the fashion mall?
How about loose juicy, man?
Oh, okay.
Little chili water, right?
Really good.
Chili Water Brewing. This is the IPA, right?
One of their many delicious IPAs, but this is my favorite.
Double dry hopped because it's smooth.
My favorite of their IPAs. This is the IPA for non-IPA drinkers.
It's great.
How about that? Because I'm not. IPA is not usually something that I order.
Right.
because I don't like it as much as, like, I like stouts and things like that. But fully admitting that I'm not an IPA person, this is a delicious beer. Like, I've gotten this before at Chili Water on tap.
And it goes well with the beer mustard, the whole.
And
deal,
obviously, the can's beautiful too. But obviously, I've drank it out of a can. I drank it out of a can before. It's very, very delicious.
Got the dancing bears.
Chili Water Tap Room, 42nd and Boulevard, adjacent to Hoagies and Hops. Catering for your holiday parties. It's not too late to get on board. Hoagiesandhops.com for Christina's. Her catering trays are beautiful, delicious, and they have all of the same great sandos and sides that you've seen us eat to our heart's content here on Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. We come back, segment 3. Indiana.
Of the week.
Oh, I always forget that. I always eat the sandwich, then I forget the hero. Hero of the week's Alec Pierce, I think.
It's good.
Been criticized a lot.
Including by me.
He is a vertical threat. And the problem is that, I'm going to use the term vacuum again, vertical threats can't always be vertical threats in a vacuum. You need somebody to throw them the ball. People are like, why isn't Alec Pierce making plays? He needs the quarterback to throw it to him. If you watch, and I'm not going through all 22 or anything like that, but you can tell just from the TV broadcast. I mean, that New England game in Germany, Alec Pierce was running wide open the entire game. And what he ended up with, like 2 catches for 25 yards or what? I don't even remember what his stat line ended up being. I think if you're judging Alec Pierce strictly on the box score, you're doing a disservice. Look, he's not a number 1. He might not even be a number 2. But to have that, he's kind of like the Kyle Korver for your offense, where you can bring him in and have him make a big play. That's what I think he is. Like, I think his role is specifically that. And maybe I'm not even giving Pierce enough credit. Maybe he will develop into a good, consistent possession, reliable, productive receiver. But I think he's your home run hitter. Yeah. I think he's your 220 guy that bats 220 and hits 30 dingers.
Jimmy Cook had made the point on the radio, I think it's a great point, that we had kind of forgotten about or begun to dismiss Alec Pierce because we were forgetting the fact that he was essentially being put on the shelf is the wrong word, but Alec Pierce is there for when Anthony Richardson's arm eventually is being able to throw to him.
Exactly.
And anything until then is gravy.
Yeah.
Right? But that was a huge play.
Yeah, it was the game-winning play along with the Pittman touchdown. And I want to mention Michael Pittman as well. I mean, you talk about somebody that's going to get paid.
Right.
He's going to get paid. And people can be happy, mad, sad, whatever about that. Michael Pittman Jr. is going to get paid.
Yeah.
He's producing at a level he's not Jamar Chase. He's not Tyreek Hill. I don't think Michael Pittman Jr. is ever going to be a player that
doesn't put up the numbers in dramatic fashion like those guys, but he puts up the numbers.
He doesn't keep you up at night, but you're getting 8-9 catches, 80-90 yards every single week. Like, that's the baseline for Michael Pittman Jr. And that's with Gardner Minshew. Imagine with a true quarterback starter what you can get from him. Hoagiesandhops.com, 42nd and Boulevard, Chili Water Tap Room as well. Go visit them for the holidays. Indiana tabs Curt Cignetti. We're going to talk about that and the college football playoff controversy, which feels like it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. But Jake and I have some thoughts there when we return. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at IUPUIJags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Welcome back. It's Corey and Schultz. Your buddy Mac Angle, who I'm a big fan of. He's a writer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and has been for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram for a long time. He's been a Dallas sports radio person, a very accomplished career. You have a lot of friends, Adam Alexander, accomplished careers. He had a tweet on Saturday about after the ACC, or maybe it was during the ACC championship game, when it became clear that Florida State was going to win. Okay, Washington, Michigan, FSU are in. Who's the fourth team? And I responded to the poll, and I said, Mac, I'm not saying they should be left out or that they will be, but the conversation to leave FSU out is absolutely going to happen in that room. And he said, well, 13-0, Power 5 champion. And I was like, no, I understand. It'd be unprecedented, but I'm telling you that conversation is going to take place. I didn't think the committee would have the cojones to do it because they knew they were going to get some blowback there, but they did it, and it's probably one of those things that'll blow over like it always does. Does it make for a better semifinal? Yeah, of course it does. It sucks for Florida State. It sucks to punish them for something that they had no control over. But if you're asking me, was I absolutely floored by that? No, I wasn't. I would say I was mildly surprised that they did it.
Here's the unfortunate thing about it. Twofold. Number one, Florida State got screwed. And did Alabama deserve to get in? And is Alabama one of the 4 best teams? Probably. But Alabama did something that Florida State did not do this year. They lost a game. Now, I don't know that should penalize Alabama from being out. I know it's tough because you only have 4 teams. And the argument of, well, but who do you think's the best right now? To me, that's the debate. Is it really about deciding in the final week of the season who looks the best on paper? Or is it about rewarding the best body of work in totality of a season? Florida State beat everybody on their schedule. Florida State in their non-conference, maybe they decided the conference was too weak, so they went out and they played against not 1 but 2 from the SEC, including LSU, who they were leading by 28 in the fourth quarter and beat by 21, an LSU team that Alabama beat by 14. They beat Florida with a backup quarterback who had a concussion in that game, and thus they then had to beat the 14th-ranked team in college football with their third-string quarterback, a quarterback that's not going to be playing in the postseason for them because that quarterback, they will go back to their backup who helped them beat Florida. But I digress. What Florida State did was this. Jordan Travis is the quarterback for Florida State, and he suffered an injury that ended his season. In an era where now suddenly everybody is, not everybody, but I'm using a generalization, a lot of people are gambling on the apps and those kinds of things. It is unfair, even though I know these guys as college players now are getting paid with NIL, and it is not, in fact, the good old squeaky clean amateur sport that it once was reputed to be. But nonetheless, it is still a sport with young people in it. And what the college football committee did was they put on a billboard for everybody to see, this comes down to the fact that it's because of one guy's inavailability to be there, unavailability, and his injury that we are holding them out. And they let everybody know that the injury to one young person prohibited Florida State from being in there. What Florida State should have done was lie. That's the overall lesson here. Kids, lie. Don't be honest. Don't be scrupulous. Don't be upfront. Lie. It's in your best interest to lie. Don't tell the truth. Skirt the truth a little bit. For Jordan Travis, Florida State should have just said, you know what? He's got a high ankle sprain, and we fully anticipate that by mid-December he will be back at 100%.
We'll reevaluate in 2 weeks, yeah.
Then they're in. They're in. And then as soon as the college football committee comes out and they go on ESPN and you're on there with Reese Davis, then you come out and you go, oh, by the way, we forgot to tell you, we're actually playing with our backup. Oh, okay, well, but we put you in because we thought you – like Trevor Lawrence now. If Trevor Lawrence is out for the year, the NFL should say to the Jacksonville Jaguars,
No.
We know you made the playoffs, but we're not going to let you in because you made the playoffs with Trevor Lawrence, and he's not going to be there in the postseason, so you're a different team. Sorry, what you did in the season doesn't mean anything because we're going by the eye test. I get it. When Texas won, once Texas won and you knew as the Big 12 champion that was surging that Texas, if Alabama won, Alabama had to get in because Texas was in. Texas and Alabama were attached at the hip because Texas won at Alabama.
You couldn't take Alabama without taking Texas, and they weren't not going to take the 12-1 SEC
So that's an easier way to say it. If Alabama won, Texas had to come with them because they beat Alabama.
SEC has produced 13 of the last 17 champions. You weren't leaving a 12-1 team with 4 ranked wins, including over Georgia, out.
You know the last two programs not named Georgia to win the national title?
The
last two programs not named Georgia to be national champions.
Alabama and Clemson?
Was that Alabama?
No, Alabama and LSU, right?
It was LSU and Clemson, wasn't it?
Alabama was 21.
Okay.
LSU was 20,
Okay,
right?
my apologies.
Yeah.
So, but I was going to say, Florida State this year beat LSU and Clemson.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that we're not, but what I'm saying is they're decent programs. I just think taking nothing away from Alabama, who's probably going to win the whole thing. I get it. But, and I believe, and I know I'm wrong here, I believe that it should go to the four teams that put together the best composite of body of work. And for Florida State to go in and win against Louisville with their third-string quarterback who'd taken 2 snaps all year, that to me is the definition of a total team victory. And it's about rewarding the best teams. Well, I don't know how you can say anybody's a better team than one that goes in with a third-string quarterback and still shuts down the 14th-ranked team in the country. And in addition to that, if you're saying to me, well, Alabama's win over Georgia, that meant everything. Did it? Because if we think so much of Alabama, why did Georgia drop 5 spots for losing to them?
Yeah.
If Alabama's one of the best teams in college football, why was Georgia penalized 5 spots for losing to them?
There's
and
a lot
in
of
addition
stuff
to
that's
that,
difficult to connect.
right?
Yeah.
In addition to that, Alabama a week ago needed a fourth and a miracle to beat a team with 6 losses. If the Alabama win over Georgia was so emphatic, the committee doesn't even think Georgia's one of the 4 best teams in college football. They said it, right?
I think 2 things here can be true. I think, look, is Alabama a tougher opponent for Michigan, and are they going to give them a better game? I think the answer probably unequivocally is yes.
I
Right?
agree with that.
Is FSU with their backup quarterback one of the 4 best teams? I think the answer to that is no, right? But also, they had their opportunity. I don't know what you could have asked them to do. Every time somebody else has been left out, you've said, okay, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. What in Florida State's control did they not do
Correct.
to leave them
Perfect
out?
way to say it.
And that's
they
where
went
I
out-
say
Derek,
it. Yeah.
Florida State went outside of conference and played legitimate games.
Away from home.
They didn't go and play
They
Louisiana,
played 2
Monroe,
SEC teams
and
away
what-
from home.
Correct.
Yeah, Florida stinks lately, but who cares? You played them away from home. You played LSU with the potential Heisman winner, by the way, and you kicked them around. I mean, they trashed LSU in that game. So I just it makes me feel dirty. Part of me is like, this is the best 4, and you don't give Michigan a walk into the championship game.
Let me ask you this. What was
But part of me is
Texas's-
also like, eh.
Here's the thing. Quite frankly, I think we get very caught up in Florida State versus Alabama. Quite frankly, it should have been Florida State versus Texas. The only reason Texas got in,
That's what I thought it was going to be.
the only reason
Yeah.
Texas got in is because they beat Alabama.
That's what I thought it was
Outside of
gonna
that,
be.
Texas
Yeah.
lost to Oklahoma.
And they struggled with TCU and Houston. Like
Texas has
didn't
the most
have a great,
egregious
yeah.
loss of anybody, right? That's who Florida State should have gotten in over.
And they did nothing else but beat Alabama,
Right.
really. I mean, what their second best win is
Because
probably Oklahoma
what the
State.
committee said is, we don't care about what happened months ago. We care about what's happened in the last 2 weeks in the eye test. Okay, the last 2 weeks, Texas beat Oklahoma State. Okay.
One positive of that. If I'm Alabama and I'm Texas and I schedule that game and it helps me, like it helped Texas and it didn't hurt Alabama, I'm more willing to schedule that game again. If you leave Texas out of the field, why would Texas ever go at Alabama?
Why would Florida State ever go to LSU again?
Yeah, no, but that's true. Yeah. I'm just saying, like,
Florida State's better off scheduling Stetson.
I think there are some positives that are there. And you know what's going to happen, Jake, is that FSU gets in this bowl game and they're a heavy underdog against Georgia, and let's say Georgia lays it on, then everybody says, "See, I told you."
The problem is this, Derek. The problem is
that's
neither
not
one of
what it should be.
The problem is both of them are going to have a third of their roster.
That's and that's
Because
not what
now
it should be, though.
half the team is going to be like in the portal.
My point: Florida's season should vindicate Florida State's season should vindicate Florida State, not the result in a virtual exhibition game. And that's really what these other bowls are. These New Year's Six games,
Where's my
everything are. They're exhibition games.
Thank you.
Time for the IUPUI Jags report. IUPUI.
Don't touch
I'm
it.
touching him right on the nose. He likes it. My dog actually hates that. Tough slog so far for men's hoops. They dropped their first 2 Horizon League games on the road at Wright State and NKU. Bryce Monroe matched the season high with 20 in the loss to the Vikings, while Jalen Counter dropped 17 points in each contest. Jags are at EIU. They're at the Barn to play Minnesota this week before returning home on the 16th to face Lindenwood. Red Beanie Giveaway Day to the first Hundo fans.
16th, December 16th.
Now, is that the beanie?
My buddy Brian Brazzi.
Yeah, okay, this is the beanie right
My
here.
buddy Brian Brazzi and his brother AJ went to the game recently at the Coliseum, and he tweeted out like what a great experience it was. They'll definitely be back. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Awesome video.
It is. Do you call that a toboggan? Did you ever call that a toboggan?
Honestly, I just called it a winter hat.
Yeah, that's what we called it, snow hats. But
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know where toboggan. Toboggan was a sled.
what about toque?
Well,
That thing?
I did
With a QU, Derek.
like torque.
A torque. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, no
Toboggan is Canadian, right?
Yeah.
A toboggan to me is a long wooden sled, right?
Cold winter day. Sometimes you're just relaxing. You're inside. Turn the thermostat up a little bit and put on a toque. Take a toque.
A torque. Sorry.
Maybe put some Christmas music on. Just chill. Sorry, back to the IUPUI Jags report. Women's hoops also fell to Wright State.
I'm sure they're thrilled for that transition.
It's legal, or it's basically been decriminalized.
Look how fat
And
my
then
face
to
looks.
Milwaukee in a winless week in league play. They had just 8 healthy players, so they're really banged up right now in Sunday's loss. They're at UE on Wednesday. They face EMU on the 15th inside the jungle. Same beanie giveaway that day to the first 100 fans. That's the last women's home game for the month of December. So if you want to see the Jags, go do it. IUPUIJags.com/tickets. Single game tickets now on sale for basketball and all winter sports at Ticketmaster. IUPUIJags.com/tickets.
Love
We
it.
come back on the show.
December 16th.
I'd mentioned
Coliseum,
Cignetti.
be there.
We will talk Cignetti, quick hits, Chateau Kitchens, Botter Bowl Bleep as we put a wrap on this thing. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for a final time, Bailey and Wood presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Let's talk Curt Cignetti here real quick. I mean, we kind of got off the rails a little bit on the, and it's fine to be passionate about that. I mean, a lot of people were passionate about what ended up happening. I thought it was in the committee's defense, it was a very, very difficult choice.
I get it.
It just was. You had basically, including Georgia. Georgia most years gets in,
Right.
even with that loss. So you had, I think, 6 worthy teams. Curt Cignetti, a lot of people excited about. He is confident, to say the very least, the former JMU head coach. What I like about him, Jake, 119 and 35. I don't care what level you're on. When you're
Right.
used to winning like that, you bring that with you to the table. Finished ranked in 10 of those 13 years at IUP and then Elon and at JMU. The other thing I like, IUP was 4-10 in league games the 2 years before he arrived. His first 2 years, they were 11-3. Elon had 6 straight losing seasons when they hired Cignetti. He went 8-4 in year 1. James Madison was 9-4 the year before he arrived at JMU. He won the league and finished runner-up in FCS that first year.
Did
And
he
the
win
guy-
a title at JMU?
No, they finished number 2, I think, twice.
Okay.
But I mean, the resume kind of speaks for itself. What I don't like is he'll be 63 this summer. Now, maybe you look at that and you say, okay, this really is the last job for Curt Cignetti, right? Because I don't think he's going to be coaching
Right.
well into his 70s. Whereas if you hire a 40-year-old, you're always worried about them leaving in 2 or 3 years.
Especially at Indiana, right?
Maybe you can look that as a positive. And the second thing, Jake, is that it doesn't always translate. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Some guys on lower levels that win a whole bunch, Archie Miller, right? Archie Miller won a lot. And then he got to the Big Ten level and he couldn't win.
So Indiana needed a coach. Indiana had a guy named Tom, high energy guy,
Yes.
got out
say the
to
least.
early success. People liked him. They were enthusiastic. They felt like they finally found the guy that was the right fit. And then it just kind of wore thin, got stale. They needed a change. So Indiana looked around, found a coach from a smaller school that's a native of the Pittsburgh area, brought him in, and it felt like a home run. That was Archie Miller, and that was Tom Crean. Now they have Curt Cignetti. And I do think, Derek, I will give Indiana credit because I felt like Indiana was going to hire a committee and fall asleep at the wheel while everybody else came and plucked coaches out. And I'll be honest, I thought it was a home run. I thought they went out and they got a guy that it felt like a coup. Like, oh, my gosh, Indiana got the guy that this guy can win. He feels like Terry Hepner in the fact that he has a belief and he wants to be there and he brings a positive energy right away. We have seen most versions of this movie in Bloomington before. We just hope this one has a different script.
The results will have to come.
Yep.
You know, we've had other guys win the press conference. We've had other guys, and this goes for Indiana, Purdue, Butler, everybody, that you say, hey, he's the guy. Like, I thought LaVall Jordan was a great fit for Butler, and it ended up not working out. So we'll see. But the track record of success is that Indiana needed a program builder, and even though he hasn't done it on this level,
right,
Curt Cignetti's a program builder,
right,
and he has the resume to back that up. Let's get to our quick hits. Shaq Leonard off to the Eagles, veteran minimum deal. Not really a surprise.
By the way, I don't think this is the case. When I was a kid, we were in Chicago once. This time of year, we'd go to Chicago every year for the holidays, and I was convinced that I saw Eric Dickerson in our hotel. And I'm like, Dad, I'm telling you, that guy's Eric Dickerson. That guy's Eric Dickerson. And my dad's like, that's not Eric Dickerson. And then the next day we were leaving the parking garage, and the parking lot attendant was the guy that I thought was Eric Dickerson.
Oh,
so
no.
it wasn't Eric Dickerson.
Yeah.
I thought for sure last night at the Pacer game I saw Shaq Leonard.
Maybe.
Now, that couldn't be the case, right?
I don't know.
Wouldn't he be in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I
because it was announced yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he left this morning.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, that's certainly possible, Jake. Certainly possible. They've had a lot of injuries, at linebacker, I should say, and so I'm assuming he's going to play right away. What's interesting is that he was choosing between Philly and Dallas. They're playing Dallas.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Now, was he offered in Dallas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he had the choice between Philly and Dallas, and he ended up choosing Philly. So long, Debbie Knox and Kelly Green, two mainstays in Indy news and media. Debbie wrapped up a 40-plus year career, signing off for the final time on the last day of December, so that was on Thursday, I think. And what a career that she had. Wow.
You know, Derek, it is
one of the faces of Indy news.
The ultimate compliment in media. So few get to do this. So few. When you get to end your career on your terms, that means that you are a legend who's had an impact in your career. And Debbie Knox was one of the faces of television, in particular in a time and a period where local televised news was a huge deal and ultra competitive. And
appointment viewing.
And she did it as well as anybody in this town for a very long time. So kudos and congratulations. And to Kelly Green from WTHR, who I don't really know Debbie Knox either, but Kelly Green, through her time on the air in Indianapolis, people got to know her. She went through a personal tragedy. Her late husband owned a business, and she decided to carry on his legacy by getting away from television and getting weekends back again and going and continuing her husband's legacy in that business.
Nice.
So congratulations to her and best of luck.
I've heard people speak very highly of Kelly, Sean Ash and Scott Swan and people like that as well. So congrats to both of them on great runs at their stations. Notre Dame off to the Sun Bowl. Weird situation for ACC bowl teams. They had to wait and kind of sift through the process, and Notre Dame got picked out of a hat. The Sun Bowl was so unprepared to have Notre Dame that they didn't have their helmet there for like the promotional press conference to announce who's coming. They'll take on Oregon State, who they do have a coach, but they barely have a team right now because so many people are in the – Notre Dame's had a lot of people go to the portal, including at wide receiver. I think that's just life in college football right now.
Derek, he's not going to be playing in the bowl game. But Oregon State, I think, went 8-4 because of, in large part, to DJ Uyunglele, who has the all-time passing record for yardage in a game against Notre Dame, which he did at Clemson in his one shining moment for Clemson. And there's a report now, because he's back in the portal, that Notre Dame is one of the schools he may end up with.
I mean, you talk about the real nothing games. Like, this is just it's completely meaningless.
Well, that's why Florida State, Georgia is going to be hard to assess, right?
It's completely meaningless, and that's what makes it, I think, really tough. That's what makes it really tough.
Who's calling you?
Oh, nobody. I'll end up getting it.
I want to see.
No, we're not going to.
I think it says no caller ID.
Indiana State. It's probably a spam call. Indiana State, by the way, congrats to them. They're in the top 30 of the first NET rankings. They destroyed, was it Southern Illinois?
We're talking about basketball.
Yeah,
right?
Indiana State basketball. So
He can coach, man. He
yeah.
can coach.
You should get him on the show.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
Get him on the show. I wanted to at least mention the trees as well.
They've got Southern Indiana coming up, I believe, this weekend, right?
Yeah, they do. USI. Chateau Kitchens, bite or bull bleep. I give a statement. Jake and I go back and forth whether we bite or it's bull bleep. ChateauKitchens.com, at Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures. The
Matthew
Pacers
says I look good when I put this hat on.
winning the in-season tournament is a significant accomplishment. Bite or bull bleep.
Yeah, it's cool.
If they want it.
Do you hang a banner for it?
Yeah. Yep. You have a parade. I suggested closing Marion County schools. You do all of it. You lean all the way in. Okay. This is a team that hasn't won any sort of championship in 50 years. They've never won an NBA title. This is the first in-season tournament. Do it.
I mean, being the winner of the first one's cool.
Do it up. If they do it. Now, they got a tough
Final
road
Four?
ahead.
Do they hang a Final Four banner?
No, that'd be ridiculous. You don't do that. Statement 2. Actually, we kind of touched on this. Teams need to invest in their backup quarterbacks moving forward.
That's probably fair.
Will it
Donut tire, baby.
Will it always be like this, though? Is this? I guess what I have to ask you, Jake, and I hope that this season is an anomaly, but is it an anomaly? I mean, I'm watching these games, and the quarterback play and the offensive play, for the most part, is atrocious.
I would agree. It's weird.
It's
I mean,
really
Derek,
bad.
It used to be that every quarterback was thrown up for 400 yards. And
like you get, sure, Jags and Bengals 34-31, right? You get one or two of those games every week, but the large majority of these games right now, and I think Colts have been insulated from this because the Colts offense has been pretty productive. The large majority of games have been like 21-17.
Can you imagine watching the Patriots-Chargers game?
Yeah.
6-0.
Awful. Jake, Patriots-Colts was a terrible football game. That was a brutally bad game.
Yeah.
Where both of those teams, somebody had to win, but if this season is not an anomaly, then I think you need to. I'm one of those people that say you draft a quarterback every year. So then if you get in this situation, you throw somebody in the fire. If they suck, they suck. You draft another one the next year. I'm talking like 5th, 6th, 7th round. I'm talking like later. Statement 3. No one will care about the debate between Penn State and Ole Miss for the 12th spot in the expanded playoff field. Bite or bull bleep?
That's probably true.
Did you see?
Somebody will be arguing that they're Derek, here's the thing. And I'll make this quick. This is what I said. Penn State, Ole Miss, perfect examples, okay? So let's say which one's 11, which one's 12?
I think they'd actually be the 7-10 game, but I was using them as an example.
Let's say Penn State and Ole Miss in the final college football playoff ranking a year from now are 11 and 12 respectively. Penn State's 11, right? So Penn State's going into the Big Ten championship game, and they are 11th. Okay. You know what I do?
Everybody.
On Wednesday of that week, I would announce that my quarterback has COVID protocol and is not going to play in the championship game. Then when I get beat, I go, but my quarterback is back next week, and the committee goes, you know what?
Yeah.
that wasn't the team that was represented, and they've got their regular quarterback back, so they're in.
Usually I think you have really dumb ideas. That's a really smart idea.
Yeah.
I'll give you credit for that. Really smart. Chateau Kitchens, Bailey and Wood Financial Group,
Love Heating and Air,
IUPUI, Chili Water Brewing. You hear my timer going off.
Love Heating
Hoagies and Hops. Love Heating and Cooling. It's time to say bye-bye. Good night. So long. Farewell. We'll see you next week. Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at IUPUIJags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.